Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, I'm going to start the Shavuot daf Gimel. We're going to begin on the very bottom of Beis and Beis by the Gemara. So, yesterday's first daf of this Masechta was entirely a Mishnah. And I'd like to focus on a question which I didn't have a chance to answer properly, which was TA26. Rabbi said that Kol HaSeirim Kaparasin Shava. This is at the very top of Beis and Beis. He says that when it comes to every seir that's brought, the kapara is always the same. Al tumas mikdash v'kedashav. Now, etc. So we were learning exactly what does everything v'chaper. So the first question, again in this Masechta for TA26. Is that Elu Seirin? What are the Seirin that Ramir says that they're all, the kapara is the same? So Rashi says, Kol Seiri Musafin, when it comes to the Seir that is brought for a Musaf, Ben Seir Hanas B'chutz Yom Kippurim, if it's referring to the Seir which was brought outside for Yom Kippur, Ben Shor Golem, whether it's for the Seir that was brought during the holidays, Ben Shor Rashi Chadashim, Kaparasan Shava, the kapara is the same, says Rashi, Kol mechaprin al kol, they're mechaper, bein al she'en bo yadia betchila, v'yesh bo yadia u'besof. It doesn't matter if there was no yadia at the beginning, but there was at the end, when again, regarding to going into the base of Mikdash, or coming in contact with Kodesh, so it doesn't make any difference, says Rameir, if the yadia was at the end, whether there was no yediyah at all, whether or not it's a Torah person who ate something tameh. But nafkamina l'tum mashira bein zilazu. He says that nafkamina is someone who is tameh between each of these. So the answer is, again, when it comes to the Sir Hanas B'chutz, the Sir Rosh Chodesh Regalim, it's all the same. The kapara is the same. However, one is not included, and that's part of the question here. Rashi says, "El Sir Hanas B'fnim," the Sir which was brought inside, Lo Nechol of Shein Mechaper Im Elu Lo Elu Toilin Es Tuliyasai Kishish B'Yadim B'Chil V'In B'Yadim B'Sof. So the exception to this rule, even though Rameir says that all Seirim, the kapara is the same, that does not include the Sir Hanas Bifnim. Now again, a lot of this we glanced over in yesterday's daf. We're going to be analyzing this Mishnah, which again took up the entire daf, more in dafim to come. So let's see the Gemara. Michti. Tana Makos Salak. So we just finished a couple days ago Masechtas Makos, and here we are now learning a new Masechta. So Ma'ashna the Tani Shavuos. Why did we jump from Masechtas Makos to Shavuos? They don't really have seemingly anything to do with one another. My answer is Yisham the Tani Chayiv al Harosh Shtayim Achas Mikan V'Achas Mikan. So toward the end of the Masechta, it talked about the obligation of not cutting the payos, which is also in Parshas Kedoshim, that a person is allowed to cut the payos, which is one on this side and one on that side, as we continue to Gimel and Aleph. And also it mentions, again, also the end of Masechtas Makos, Yal Zakin Shtay Mikan V'Shtay Mikan V'Yachs Mil Matos. So there's two and one here. So Chada the Mechayiv Tarti. So in this situation, you have one, and you're chayiv for two. Says Rashi, V'al Zaken Shtayim Mikol Tzad Beis Sidaim Levi Shahalechi Rachav, because the jaw is wide. Keneged Sidaim, opposite the again as part of the face. V'yeshachol Davar Rachav Katzel L'Shnei Stadim B'Rashi. Okay, so Rashi says that in this case, it's chada the mechayev lehatarti. Says Rashi, Azhara de Mechayiv Aleha Tarti. It's the Azhara is Mechayiv you actually two. Hainu Dumi the Shtaim Shein Arba, which is pretty similar to how our Masechta continues, which is regarding to Shavuos. Tana Shavuos Shtaim Shein Arba. So as we said, what are these Shavuos? So Rashi brought down on Beis and Aleph that the two means that which is in the psukim of Urhala Hetiv, that someone who says Shvua Oichel Shehetiv Loy Oichel, I will eat, I will not eat in the future, and the other two, that's L'Haba, and the other two which are not in psukim is L'Ochel L'Ochalti V'Ochel, right? So either I did not eat and you did, so it's b'shas neder, the shas shvua, that was not true. I didn't eat, but I did, or I did eat and I didn't. So that's the same thing, similar to this notion of payas and the cutting of the beard. So that's how we understand that. Okay, so now we understand the connection between these two Masechtos, and of course that wasn't the last daf in Masechtas Makos, but it's certainly deep in the middle of the third parak. So Ma'ishna Hacha the Tanya Luhu Lukuhu, Ma'ishna Gami Yisiyah Shabbos, Samaris Negoyim, Dulukatani Luhu Lukuhu. So when we talk about Shavuos, we go into greater detail, but when we talk about the din of Shabbos, of Hachna, of Yitzia and Hachnasa, or the dinim of Saras, so we didn't really get into so much detail there. So Amri, Shavuos v'yadias atoma degabi hadadi. So then why do we mention the first two, but not so much the last two? So Amri, Shavuos v'yadios atoma degabi hadadi kasvinan v'damin hadadi b'carbon oil v'yared tanuhu gabi hadadi. So the reason why we link the first two of a shvua and violating your shvua, or the din of yedias hatoma of violating going into the Beis Hamikdash while you're tamei and the like, is because both of them have the same chiyuv, carbon, which is an oil v'yared. V'ayde de tani tarti tani kuhu. That's once we mentioned two, we mentioned them all. So pasach b'shvuas mefarish yedias hatoma, and adi de zutrun milayhu pasik sharulhu v'hadar tani shvuos denafishin milayu. So because when it comes to the dinim of yedias hatoma, the laws are quite brief, so therefore we continued and basically explained them, and then we explained the dinim of shvuos denafishin milayu, which is much more complex. There's a lot more in depth. So that's the reason why Rashi says the Zutrin Milahu, the Shnei Prokim El Harishon. The first couple Prokim in the Masechta focuses primarily on Yedias Hatoma, and then afterwards it goes back to explaining the din of Shavuos, because there's a lot more there. Shavuos Shtaim Shein Arba Shtaim. So what are the Shavuos? Shavuos Shtaim Shein Arba Shtaim She'achal Shlo Yachal. So the din is I will not eat, or I will eat in the future. Shein Arba is achalti v'shlo achalti, which is referring to past tense. I did eat, or I didn't eat. Yedias hatoma shtaim shein arba, shtaim yedias hatoma shtaim shein arba, shtaim yedias hatoma kodesh yedias hatomas mikdash shein arba kodesh mikdash. Okay. So says Rashi, Yedias Tumas Kodesh, Shnis Alma Mena Tuma V'Achal Kodesh, that you forgot and you ended up eating that which was Kodesh. Yedias Tuma de Mikdash, Yedias Yedia, says Rashi, Shnis Alma Mena Yedias Tuma V'Nichnas Al Mikdash. Again, you forgot that you were tummy and you entered into the Mikdash, or you forgot you were tummy and you ate a carbon. So that is the two, and then the other ones are the other ways around. Says Rashi, Savar She'in Zeh Kodesh, that you knew that you were tamei, but you forgot that this was Kodesh, or you forgot that you were going into that this was the base of Mikdash. Okay, so Siyas Shabbos Shtaim Sheno Rabba Shtaim Hoitzah. So the two is regarding Hoitzah, the ani of a poor person who's standing outside, and V'hoitzah the Baal Habayis, and the Baal Habayis going outside. So basically, when it comes to that which is in the psukim is Yitzias Shabbos. So either the ani is outside and he puts his hand inside and takes it out, or the Baal Habayis himself, who's inside, goes outside with an object. Shener ba hachnasa. The opposite is bringing in the ani v'hachnasa the Baal Habayis. Namely, that you have the ani who's outside and he brings something in, or the Baal Habayis is outside and he goes in. Maras de goyim shtaim shener ba shtaim seis ubaheras. So these are the two forms of tumah. Rashi says it's only seis ubaheras. Elvol sapachas enu shem naga. That doesn't count. El shem toilda. When it comes to sapachas, it's like an offshoot. That's more daf vav in our parak is going to discuss. Anyway, so it says sapachas and arba says v'toldata baharas v'toldata. It's offshoots. So mani masnisin. Who is our Mishnah like? Lo Rabbi Shmuel of Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because here Rabbi Shmuel ha'emer enu chayev al ha'asid lavoi. You're only chayev on that which will happen, because the pasuk says l'haro lahetiv. Namely, when it comes to the dinim of Shavuos, that I make a Shavuot that I will not eat, or I will eat. So only on that, but not a Shavuot that I didn't eat, or that I did eat. That he doesn't hold works. So he's not like our Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva ha'emer al helam tuma hu chayev v'enu chayev al helam mikdash. The whole element of tuma is dafka when it comes to going and eating tuma, as your tame, eating something which is kodesh, but not regarding forgetting about the mikdash, which our Mishnah does say hello mikdash. So Iboy Samer Rabbi Shmuel, Iboy Samer Rabbi Akiva, Iboy Samer Rabbi Shmuel, mehen l'chiv, mehen liftor. So it could be like him, and there's certain which it says two which are four. So two of them you're chayiv, and maybe a couple of them you're potter. Iboy Samer Rabbi Akiva, shehen l'chiv, mehen liftor. So again, maybe they're just saying that some of them there's a chiv and some of them there's a patur. So it doesn't mean necessarily shtaim shehin arba that you're chayiv on all four. So where it says liftor, as we continue to base, that's hard to say. Hadumia demaris negoyim. We're comparing it just like the rest of the Mishnah, which talks about, for example, saras. Ma hasam kula chiyuva avkacha nami kula chiyuva. And therefore, we should be able to say it's that some of them is potter. No, you must be chayiv. So, Rabbi Shmuel, v'chilo m'chayiv Rabbi Shmuel l'sha'avar. Now, it's true. He said that it's only latid. It's only something which, again, something which will happen in the future, or atid lavo. But how about I ate, I didn't eat? So that's not included according to him. Well, that's not entirely true. He does hold there's some element of chiyuv. Says the Gemara, v'chilu m'chayiv Rabbi Shmuel l'shavar carbon. It's just that you're not chayiv a carbon. Avol malchus chiyuv m'chayiv. You still have a chiyuv malchus. So even though it's true that not all of them is your chiyuv koil or yared, however, but you would still be chayiv if you said I ate or I didn't eat on the past, that you be chayiv malchus. Ilkidu Rava. The Yom Rava b'ferish riv satira shvur sheker dumya the shvur shav. So that he says it clear. This is the sheet of Rava that we make a comparison shvuas shav and shvur sheker. So someone who lies and someone who says basically nothing. A shvur which is like in vain. Ma shav l'sha'avar. Just like when it comes to shvur shav, it's only something in the future. Av sheker nam l'sha'avar. And therefore, that's the reason why he says, you're right, it's only the chiyuv is dafka when it comes. The chiyuv is dafka for a carbon is only in the future, not in the past tense. However, you could compare it. At least you're going to be chayiv malchus. So in this, we're going to deal with this more. But Rashi says, "Ukarava kolomer v'im timer lav shem bo maisahu vein loikin alav al zeh loikin kidarava." You can still say you get malchus. The paragimel amrinan shaloikin al shua shav, because the din is you do get malchus on a shua. You can get malchus on a shua shav. V'alfim michilu yanake Hashem hu do yanake of a basin malkin oisai. So Yutaka could get malchus even though it's a lav shem bo maisa on a shua shav, as Rashi says. Fine. So he said, okay, fine. Maybe that's only by shua shav. Kagain al ish hu isha vel evan shu zahav. The shav mashma davar sheinu shel klum, something which doesn't exist at all. I mean, maybe nowadays what I just read in Rashi, a man is a woman, but that's considered a shua shav. Fine. But shua sheker menolan shua sheinu nicker im emes im lav. A shua shav is like obvious. Shua sheker is not so clear. So how do we know in that situation you would also get malchus? Because you already know that you get malchus. To an shua sheker. Remember Rabbi Hassam hak shua sheker the karmarvinan mariboy de l'shav lo riv satira el sheker de l'shavar. You're going achalti o lo achalti. I ate or I didn't eat. Shemisha shenishma, from the time that you made the shua, yatsa shua mepiv, l'sheker. You're lying right now, right? Domi the shua shav. So therefore, then you would be chayiv for shua sheker because right now you're lying, right? Right now, right at the time of the shvua, right now at the time of the shvua, you are lying. So the lahachi afki b'lashon shava lamemra de b'sha'avar kamari mashava l'sha'avar nishma l'shana sasiyadua. Fine. So just like you're trying to change that was. So I may have said it a little bit differently, but the point is that when it comes to shvua shav and a shvua sheker, it's you can be chayiv malchus. It says nami l'sha'avar. You're chayiv on that which already took place. So Bishlam, so even though it's true, you're not going to be chayiv on a carbon for I ate or I didn't eat, but you're still chayiv for shvua sheker. Okay, and shvua shav bishlama achalti v'achalti k'rava. Okay, I understand. I ate, I didn't eat. So as we said, like Rava, we compare shvua shav and shvua sheker. K'rava shaloi oichel v'achal nami. I shaloi oichel v'achal nami lav sheyesh bo maisahu, because you're saying I didn't eat and you ate, so that's you did an action. Ella oichel v'loi achal amai lav sheyesh bo maisahu. So why would you be chayiv in that case? So again, it's interesting. That's why it's important to learn this Rashi, because when it comes to the case of the past, so that we say is like a shvua shav, and by a shvua shav, there's a drasha that we say lo yanake, that you do get malchus though for that, and therefore we already linked, even though it's true, it's a lav shema ma'asav, it's exeris akasav, and we compare now shua shav shua sheker in that regard, but not for in the future I will not eat and then I ate. But that's not a problem. You will be getting malchus because that's a lav sheish b'maisa. But how about the other way around, where you say I will eat and you don't eat? That's a lav sheish b'maisa. So Ksav Rabbi Yishmael lav sheish b'maisa like in a lav. It must be he holds that you get malchus, and therefore that's what he says. That's what our Mishnah is. So Yahachi Kash Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan. The other Rabbi Yochanan Lachak Sam Mishnah. The Idmar, what does the Stam Mishnah say? Shvur she'oichel kikar zu hayoim. I'm making sure I'm going to eat this bread today. V'avar hayoim, the day passed. V'lo achel, you didn't eat it. So Rav Yochanan v'yashokash damar tevayu ain't like it. You don't get malchus. Rav Yochanan ain't like it. Mishum dehavi lav shein bo maisa. V'chol lav shein bo maisa ain't like it a lav. So, and this is also brought down a lot in Masechtas Makos, whether the other person holds Hasra Safik and Shema Hasra, but we see clearly Rav Yochanan holds that Alav Shem B'Maisa you don't get Malchus, and he holds like Stam Mishnah. So how could our Stam Mishnah be saying that Alav Shem B'Maisa you get Malchus? So Rav Yochanan Stam Achmin Eshkach. He actually found a different piece. So Hai Stam, which one? So Ilema Hai Stam did none. Avol on Hamaiser B'Tahar. Let's make sure I find what we're talking about over here. Vashoiver Betame Eloika Esar Boyim. So it says, let's look in Rashi. Let's find this. Oichel Ochel Ashim Maisa. B'chol Terakul Ashim Maisa. Fine. So, what exactly is this case? So Bishlam Shoyver Betame. Now, when it comes to breaking the bone of the carbon Pesach, Dechsiv Etzem Tishbur Boy. You're not allowed to break the bone of a carbon Pesach. And that's only b'kosher v'lo b'psul. That's only if the carbon is kosher. But if you would break the bone, if you break the carbon Pesach, and it's tamei, you're not going to get malchus on that. It's only if you break the bone of a kosher one. Avol hamaiser b'tahar my time. What is the reason when it comes to maiser when you're tahar? Lav mishum dehavi lav shem b'maiser lav shem b'maiser and like in a lav, right? It must be. It's because it's a lav shem b'maiser, and that's the reason why you don't get malchus. Let's just see. Rashi talks about this now. Umamai Rabbi Yaakovi, Rabbi Shem B'Maisa Ein Like, and Love Dilma Rabbi Hudahi Mishum Deba Hakasam Litan Asay Achalos Asay Halav Hachi Lucky. That maybe he holds that the reason why is because we're talking about an asay after a los asay, which is a lav hanitek lasay. So maybe that's the reason why you don't get malchus. It has nothing to do with lav shem b'maisa, or lav sheish b'maisa. It could just be because it's a lav hanitek lasay, and therefore, if you would leave over your carbon, so then you don't get malchus. Why? Because there's something you can do afterwards. The sanya lo soy sirim enuad biker. So with regard to again, someone who leaves over this carbon, even while it's tahar, you don't get malchus. But it's not necessarily because of lav shem b'maisa. The sign lo sasirim enuad biker behind yisirim enuad biker left it over. But ish disrafel, there's a remedy. You burn it. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says it's a lav and say. Instead of you getting malchus, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to burn it. Rabbi Yaakov was not for that reason. So there's different reasons why, but everyone holds when it comes to nice you don't get malchus. But again, who says that that's the stama that he found? Elohai stama eshkach shvua shlo oichel kikerzu. I make a shvua, I'm not going to eat this bread. Shvua shlo oichlena. I'm going to make a shvua that I'm not going to eat it. V'ochla, and I taka ate it. So on Daf Gimel, he says, Einu chayiv el achas. So he's only chayiv one. Why? It says Rashi, dim acher shenishbul of shvua rishayna, that once you already made this first shvua, neseres alav, it's already usher to you right away. V'chi hadar ishdava. Now you make a shvua, havli nishbul kaim as a mitzvah. So that falls on the category like a shvua to be mekayim a mitzvah. And we already learned nishbul kaim as a mitzvah v'loi kaim pater mishua's carbon. That if you made a shvua to be mekayim a mitzvah and you weren't mekayim the mitzvah, you don't bring a carbon. So that's the reason why I only have one. Zuhi shvus bitoy shechayim alos nadaina malchus rashgagosakaris. Focus on the words v'zuhi. This is the situation where a person taken can get malchus and have it to bring karn oviyared. Now, what is this language? Zuhi dechayav alos nadaina malchus avo oichel. On this is when you're chayav. However, avo oichel. Let's say you say I will eat v'lo achal, but you didn't eat. So lo lucky, you're not going to get malchus. Michti. Why? Let's see. Hi stama vada. Hi. Fine. So therefore, why not? Because it's a lav shema maisa. So we have a stam mishnah. So you tell me, oh, there's a stam mishnah that says lav shema maisa. Lav shema maisa. So we see ain't like in a love. We see clearly. So michdi hi stama hi stama. My chas is the avid ki hi stama avid ki hi stama. How do we know you should hold? Which stam should you hold like? Right. So he says, well, taimech Rabbi Gufa, hechi stamla and hacha, hachi, v'hacha, v'hacha, hachi. How is it possible? It sounds like a contradiction in the Mishnayos. Elomi kar savar lav shema ma'isa laikinolav. Originally, he thought that you do get malchus. The stama, he made it into a stam mishnah. V'hadar savar ein laikinolav. Then he said, oh, it's a lav shema ma'isa, you don't get malchus. The stama, he made another stam mishnah. However, really the truth is, Lamaskana, you don't get malchus. And the fact that it says elsewhere, a lav shema ma'isa, you do get malchus, okay, he didn't remove that first stam mishnah, but we go bust to the second one. And that's what Rabbi Shmuel holds. Rabbi Shmuel holds, like the second stam mishnah, that a lav shema ma'isa, whether or not Loikin or Rabbi Shmuel holds lav shema ma'isa loikin olav. However, again, this is the stam mishnah that was found. Okay. Let's try to answer these questions. Question 12. Ha'ma'isa b'Pesach ma'adu ein loika. So he said either it's a lav shema ma'isa or because it's a lav hanita class say. So that's a pretty clean answer. Question number 12, which is on the bottom over here. Avloisu ser menuad biker, v'noisu menuad biker, ve'esh disrofu, b'akas alita nasei achaloisa say, or because of cholav shem b'maisa, ein loikin olav. Okay. Question TA. Let's try TA. 27. Shavuot shtayim shen arba, yediyas hatuma shtayim shen arba. Elu shtayim l'kul yalma, ve'elu shtayim plugta tanoi. That's not an easy one. Okay. Fine. So let's go through this. So, Shavuos l'asid l'kol yal machayev. Okay? So, let's just find this in the Gemara. Because Rabbi Shmuel holds Eino chayev el al asid lavoi. And that's what everyone holds. Okay? So that, for sure, everyone holds your chayev. L'shavar pligi, that's where there's the machlokas, Rabbi Yishmuel. The helam tuma kul yal machayev. The helam mikdash pligi. So that's why Rabbi Akiva, he holds it's al helam tuma hu chayev, ve'enu chayev al helam mikdash. So that is the answer for TA 27 on Gimel Amud Aleph. Question TB. TB 28. Hamaiser Pesach Madua Ein Loika. Mamish, the exact same question as question 12, which is perfectly fine by me. TB 28. It's another softball question. Lav Shem Bo Maisa, Lav Hanita Klase. Adkan.